Mystic Essentials Day 2. First thing that I really want to say is please join the Mistika 10 Global Community Slack group. This is in a link. By the way, you can find this PDF in the document in the media downloads on the documentation folder. In the documentation folder, there has to be a PDF with today's slides, so you can enter.
I'll just interrupt you for the Slack, because it seems that sometimes the link is not working correctly. So if somebody has issues connecting to Slack and would like to join, please just let me know your email address and I'll add you manually, okay?
Great thing of the Slack community is that more people will be able to answer your questions, and actually the community over there is really active and with loads of great questions, and I really think it's worthwhile to be there. There's no new media, but if it's the first time you are coming to these Mystic Essential classes, remember that you can download the media. You can find the link in the PDF as well. Okay. And what are we going to learn today? Well, we will have a better look to the visual editor. I do believe that when I was looking at the recording last week, I do feel that I kind of went really quick over that part of the first class. So we're going to pay a little bit more of attention today to that. We're going to see how the different windows and panels, what they do inside the visual editor. Have a better understanding at configuring the storyboard. We're going to configure the storyboard to use it and work in our advantage. And we're going to learn to use the snapshot and navigate in the storyboard. This is going to be essential when we're doing grading jobs. And have a brief look at the keyframe graph. We're going to have a brief look at the keyframe graph because I guess that in next week's class, where we're going to see a little bit more of online editing and maybe some use of graphics and more work up with keyframes, we're going to have a deeper look into that. We're going to have a thorough look at the Mistika Color Node. This time, many people in the first session asked that we wanted to go deeper into the color node. So that is what we are going to do today. We're going to see how the vectors, what makes a vector in Mistika, which is a layer. And we're going to see that we're going to have primary, bands, fixed vectors, and curves. We're going to learn the order of operations, not only inside the color node, but inside each vector. It's something really interesting on how most of those sub-layers inside the vectors actually work in parallel. Many people think they are serial, but no, those sub-layers inside the vectors are working in parallel. So you could use them really creatively, or you could actually organize the vector structure, how they work. And that is what I mean when I say all vectors are serial, but what about inside the vector? So that can make it, just going to make it interesting. So, and then something many people ask, do I need to adjust the primary pivot points? We are going to see that generally, when you're doing a video grade and with the media that I've gave you, what we're looking for is actually a display referred grade. So in this case, maybe I wouldn't change the pivot points, but we could see how we could adjust the pivot points to use the primary grade creatively as well. And then working with bands. How do we work with bands? How do we adjust the different attributes in bands? Then the qualifier, see how the qualifier has 3 different types of modes, of color modes, in which we can qualify the image. using HLS, RGB, and a 3D cube. We're going to combine this with shapes and see how we could combine it with shapes, and also see a little bit of shape tracking as well. And change the vector hierarchy. Well, this is kind of moving around the vectors, the recover mode. And to end, we're going to end with a question that many people are asking Mistika is, where do I apply a LUT 3D? And you're going to see that you're going to have two options. That actually, there are a lot more options, but two options, and this will be dictated on how you really want to organize your grade, okay, and your timeline in Mistika. If there is time, although you can see it's going to be very packed today, and I really want to focus on color grade. If there is time, we are going to briefly show you how to conform an XML, the XML that is inside the media that I've sent you. Okay. Essentially, what I really want you to do is for this week, or for before we do the final sessions, is practice with a color node, learn how the tool works. And in the following classes, we will see how to do final conform in Mistika, how to adjust XML time warps and framings of elements that might come from the edit suite, and then do a final deliverable. I'm planning also to open Dropbox, so you guys can send me some of those exercises or some of those final renders to me, so I could, I'm not really going to judge them, I'm just going to answer back and say things that we can correct inside Mistika, and basically follow up with any questions you might have as well. So I really want you to get out of these classes with a good understanding of Mistika and being able of delivering a whole piece in Mistika. So anyway, let's start. Okay, so I'm going to open Mistika. I'm opening Mistika on the preset that we created the other day. Anyway, I'm going to close Mistika and I'll show you again. Maybe went too fast there. Basically, because the project that we're working on, the media that we're working on is 1920 by 1080 at 25 frames per second. So just to double check that we have the same settings on your end. Okay. Okay, it's taken a while to open.
It's Friday, she's tired. Like you, Paco, you had a busy week, you said.
Oh yeah, I had a very busy week. I had a very busy week, but yeah, really looking forward to that. Okay, it did open up.
Oh, you need a new license.
I need a new license in 4 days, yeah, before I finish. Well, okay, let's open 1 second the Mistika configuration tool. And yeah, just to be sure, this ICA Mistika Essential is the preset I created from one of the factory presets, actually the 1920 by 1080 preset. I'm just going to close this because I'm not going to change anything, but just to double check that in master formats, the one that really dictates how the timeline is configured and the working space of the timeline, we have 1920 by 1080 at 25 frames per second. Remember that if you don't have a video board, Mistika won't detect a video board, and you will see it on the right bottom side of your monitor. Okay, in this case I have a black magic, but I will deactivate it for you to actually see what I'm seeing over here. And that is it. Okay, I'm gonna press OK. So we are now sure that we have set up Mistika correctly, and then open Mistika Boutique. Okay. Well, there is a quite great response. We started with 8 people and it jumped to 34. Thank you very much for joining.
So Karan is saying that he's been seeing you almost every day now, Paco.
Oh, great! I mean,
so many online workshops.
I bet there are other better.
You're everywhere. Come on, man.
I bet there are better other things to see, but yeah, I'm glad. I mean, that means that you've enjoyed the classes and you're willing to learn. Okay, so last week we left it. We briefly saw how to render something out. So basically what I'm going to do here is open a timeline with the scene detect shot that I sent you already scene detected and cut. Okay, so it's opening. You can see my system is slightly slower than normal. Don't know why that is. Sorry for that, guys. Hope it doesn't affect the rest of the outcome of the class. Normally it's faster than this. Oh, there we go. I didn't really click it properly. So sorry for that, guys. Okay, so if you remember, well, this is the Mistika time space. And in the Mistika time space, we kind of have the option of setting up the clips in any position that we want. In this case, I did decide to put my edit on 0. But remember that we could change the starting time code here in real-to-see. And if I want to start from hour 1, I could change that. And that automatically, you can see here on top of that white line, it would be hour 1. So now everything to the right would be in hour 1. Clips in Mistika have normally this green rectangle, and if we want to look at some of their attributes, we click into attributes. But if there's anything we want to do over the pictures, we need to go to the visual editor. And in the visual editor, just to go there, we just have to do one simple thing, which is double clicking. And in the visual editor, we could see that every clip has an options tab where we could define the size of the clip now. Okay, in the middle here, we see we have our images, our image, where we are going to work creatively. With the right button, you can move the scopes. The scopes are activated here on the bar that is to our right. And over here to our right as well, we have what we call the eval tree. That is called the eval tree because it's actually what the playheader is reading at that time. If I want to clone this clip, to clone a clip in Mistika, just like in other tools, you press Alt, single click. It's now overlapping, and that's why it's red. And if I want to clone this again, you can see now we have 3 clips. Now, as soon as I double click in one of them, you can see that the eval tree updates and shows that there are 3 clips that are being read by the playhead over here. Okay. If I come to my visual editor and in the storyboard, with shift click, I choose to go to the next shot, you can see now that the playhead is only showing 1 clip. It's not showing the 3 clips that we had before. And that is because obviously in the playhead, there's only one being red. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to go back to these three clips here because we're going to talk a little bit about the hierarchy and about the eval tree. Just quickly, I'm going to add one color grade here and make it like really obvious. I'm going to offset this to red. And this one over here, apply another color correct tool. And offset this to blue. Okay, so in the timeline, I have these three, and I'm only seeing the top one. The top one is the one that is obviously on top and is obscuring all the, well, obstructing all the ones that are at the bottom. But in the eval tree, I can actually choose which one I'm seeing. And the way I can do that is by double clicking. So if I double click, I'm seeing that one, ignoring the ones that are on top. And you could see there is an indication of this that is blue. You can see there a blue background there on that clip, and then there is a green background. The blue background is actually the moment we are viewing the viewing node that is being outputted in our video board, okay? And the green one is actually the working node. And in this case, for example, over here, I can work in my clip and say, actually, let's zoom in here a little bit. Let's, I don't know, I'm gonna auto key this here for a second. And we could even add a keyframe there. And we go from 100 to the end to, I don't know, let's put 250. Is that too much? Yeah, 250. And maybe then just offset it a bit. Okay, and we could see there that, whoa, yeah, we'll need to fix that zoom because I'm going to need to add a keyframe here as well for these, for offset X and offset Y, okay? And over here, just type in 0 and 0. Obviously, we would need to smooth it, and there we go. Okay, so we've done a zoom and a movement there, and you can see that the keyframes, we could see them in this timeline over here. All right. So again, over here, we are seeing the blue, the output of the blue clip here of the color grade that we've done here, but we are actually working on something that is at the bottom. This obviously in the timeline, we won't be able to see it until we hide the clips that are on top. So I can select them and hide them, and then we could see them there, okay? But this is a way of explaining to you how the eval tree works over here. You'll see that when we start doing a comp next week for when we add graphics, that this is going to be very important to actually see the output of the comp, but being able of looking at another clip that maybe you want to take to another color. You could manipulate it while you're still seeing the final comp outside of Mistika. Anyway, now that we've explained how the eval tree works, let's go to something a bit more interesting. I'm going to select all our clips. We could do a selection box, or another thing is over here in the edit panel, we have the option of using hotkeys to select. We have an option here to select all. And if I press select all, I have all of them selected. Then I could go to VFX and add the color grade node. In the parameters panel here in this shot over here. Okay, one thing I forgot to explain here for a second, if for example, I'm adjusting the size here and I want to reset it. Okay, so I've just barely zoomed in there for a second. Okay, just a little bit. If I want to reset this, I can just select and press delete, and that will take it to the default values. Okay, just something I forgot to explain there. Okay, so I double click on the color grade because I want to view the color grade output, and I also want to work in the color grade. But the first things that I want to show you is how the storyboard works here. And it works slightly different to other tools. You can see I have a white box and a red, I have a white frame and a red frame on the shot. Okay, and this is how I configure it, and this is how I like to work. But once I explain the panel where you can change the configuration of this, feel free to experiment and find what is better for you. So basically, you can see here that we have a roll here, like a film roll here. If you just click there for 2 seconds, maybe less, we have different options on how we can configure the storyboard. We can actually add more lines. So especially when we're doing hour-long shows or a film, maybe we want to see a lot more clips in one go. When you're working in 2 monitors, the good thing of this is that this could be displayed in the second monitor as well. Okay, so that is something interesting. It actually happens when you press full here. Splits in this case, as we have a small edit, I'm just going to put 1 line. Then you have different zoom factors. We can make this really small, or we can make this really large. So depending on how you want to work and how you want to move with the storyboard. As with any other panels in the Mistika timeline, the right button moves the panel. Okay, so we can move here. If we're looking for a shot, we can move around here with the right button. You could also grab the timecode reader here, and that is going to move the panel as well. Okay, this is not changing the playhead. The playhead is still in that position. And what color is the playhead? Let's go back to the timeline. It's red. And what frame does this shot have? Red. So what this means is that if I play here, and this is better in 2 monitors actually than in 1. When I stop, okay, let's stop in maybe, oh, sorry guys, you're not seeing the video output here. Sorry guys. So I play this clip, and when I stop, okay, let's stop here, and I go inside my visual editor. Oh, I get the white frame. Sorry, it was the other way around. Sorry, I've forgotten about this. Yeah. So sorry, the white frame is the shot that we're working on, and red is going to be the snapshot. Yeah, sorry for this, guys. Yeah, completely forgot about this. So the current shot would be the white frame, and over here in the storyboard, what I have is lock offset and lock head B. And the reason why I have this is because I'm going to take them off. Okay, is that head B, I really want that head B, that green text over there, I really want it to follow the selection I do in the storyboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press lock head B, and every time I select a shot, head B goes to that shot. Why so? Because, for example, if maybe I'm doing a quick grade here, okay, and I go to swap playheads, automatically it will jump between those two shots. So if I wanted to copy a grade, just by double clicking, it will copy the grade. I can quickly here swap playheads, swap between the two clips. Okay, so I could easily maybe compare a shot as well. There's another reason why I do that as well, and is if I press here this comparison icon here, I actually have the option to manipulate how the snapshots are done. Okay, so I could press show snapshot here. So it's showing a snapshot of the clip that I selected. And that is because in the storyboard here, I have the option auto snapshot enabled. The cool thing of this is that I can, for example, go here to show split for a second and quickly compare the shot with any clip I select inside my storyboard. Okay, I could take off the draw outline, and I could use one of the side-by-side presets if I wanted to, or side-by-side split wipes here. And then obviously we could change the position of the wipe and or the angle as well. Or we could also snap, zoom the snap, or change the position of the live clip and do the comparison. If we feel we're lost, we can click again on preset wipe or on preset side by side, and we go back to how it was. If we want to come back to the live output, we just click on show live, and that is it. You could see in this menu, we could do that. But the interesting thing here is that I've activated the auto snapshot option here at the middle. So now we've lost the white frame, okay, and the white frame is the current clip that is selected. Well, what would I want to do in this case? Well, I want to go back to the clip that I'm working on right now. So I'm just going to press on center current. So as soon as I press on center current, it comes back to the shot that I was working on. Okay. I just clicked on a shot that is beside. Oh, you can see here, it just beneath, under the clip, you can see it says previous one, previous two, and it's just showing you where the selection frame is. Okay, and in this case is two shots to the right, so to one of the two next shots, and that's showing it to you where the position of the clip. This is actually really interesting when actually you are showing split. So actually you could see better which shot you're comparing it. Okay, so if any of you were asking what that prev one means, it means that it's the previous shot. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my live option, and over here, over here, then what if I really have a selection and I really want to center my storyboard to, for example, that shot. Okay, so a bit that I want to go to the selection I have, just to be sure, I could go and press center selected, and that will go to the shot that I have selected. Why? Because maybe I know that I really wanted to compare the shot to this other one here. So if I have show split or anything here, all the side by side, I could easily do it just by quickly selecting the new shot that I want to compare my current shot with. Okay. And this actually is the reason why I have lock current here. The reason why I have lock current here is because when I center current and move, okay, in this case, I really want my current shot to be in the middle of the storyboard, okay? If on the other hand, I had lock selected, okay, and this might be because right now I do have a shot selected, and I know this is my key shot that I really want to, like my master shot that I really want to compare the rest of the clips with. Okay, that's what could be useful for. I could really choose to keep. Sorry, I need to activate something else. Here to scroll selected, and I have lock current. If I have scroll selected, you can see that now I'm moving the current shot, but the selected is locked. Okay, this just depends on how you want to work. Sorry for the confusion there, but obviously I've been working for years and years with lock current, and that's how I really liked. And actually, if I scroll anything, is the current shot. Okay. Why do I have lock offset and lock head B? Well, generally, when you lock offset, the reason is because maybe you have a one-to-one interview, and you know that in interviews, maybe you want to copy something. So, for example, here, this is a good moment of the piece that we're working with. Go to show this live. Let's go first to this shot here. Remember, with Mistika, shift click, and it will move the current shot to the shot you just clicked on. Okay. So, for example, here I do a quick grade. Okay, offset, maybe a little bit of contrast. Please don't judge this too much right now. But I know that 2 shots later, my shot will be there as well. So immediately, I know that I have that shot here. Okay. And obviously with the mouse, it will be just double click. But with the control panels in Mistika, you can automatically just click copy selected, and copy selected. So right now, I'm doing this with the mouse, so you can see exactly how to do it. But on the control panel, you will have the option of copying the selected shot. Okay. So hope you had a better understanding here of how we can configure the storyboard. The way you're seeing it here is exactly how I like it to be and how I like to work. But normally what happens is that different operators choose a different way of working, really depending on the system they came from to Mistika. And Mistika, when they give all these options, they really try the operator to make him feel comfortable with everything, okay? Generally, the zoom factor I use is 2, but maybe for today, let's put it in 3. Obviously, at the bottom, you will have the options of creating all icons again, and Mistika will create all the icons if necessary. And that is it. Now, next panel here that we have is the presets. Okay, and in the presets, we do have the option of saving grades. Okay. If I press create automatic here and I choose to show here the icons, Okay, we have the option of seeing the names, details, but in this case, I obviously prefer icons. This is where the presets would be. So if I go to this Snapshot, okay, and I want to apply this grade, I just have to double click. And generally double clicking in Mistika will bring the grade, okay? In the storyboard as well, if you click and hold, you can see a preview of the shot you're going to copy if you want to. It doesn't apply the grade completely, but it does show you a preview. And if you press the middle button and drag up, if you press the right button of the mouse and drag up, it will apply it, okay? It will apply the grade if you want to. So kind of like going to, let's go to shot number 20 over here, okay? And I just want to apply the shot. You just click and drag it up quickly. So, for example, if you save a snapshot of a particular shot here, you could actually click on Recover Snapshot over here, and it will show you a snapshot of whatever you have in the preset menu. Okay, this with the control panel is a lot easier, and there's obviously hotkeys created for this. Okay, remember over here, you have the option of creating automatic, and it will give you a name. It will give a number to the shot. But what if you have like a very critical shot here that you know you're going to use a lot? I'm going to go to show live here for a second, and let's add a little bit of contrast. Let's bring the offset a little bit up there for a second. Saturate a tiny bit there. Make it look slightly nicer than what it is. And you know that this is going to be a shot that not only you're going to come to a lot, but you're going to use a lot as well. You just press create and say, okay, master shot. You type the name. I actually wanted to put caps on master shot. And you save it. And that's it. You will have the presets. And remember, the right button of the mouse moves every single panel out there. Okay, if you want to delete anything, you just select them, press here delete, and Mistika will obviously double check that you really want to delete that, and you press OK. Again, this is really cool with two monitors, and single monitor is kind of really small here. But you could obviously enlarge this and make it larger inside Mistika as well to work with, okay? Right, so these are the, yeah.
Can you repeat which kind of control panel are you using? Randy is asking.
I'm not using a control panel. For the matter of the classes, when we do webinars, we don't normally use control panels. In my studio, I have a tangent panel, okay? Here, currently, right now, I don't have one, but you could have tangent panels, any of the tangent panels, and actually you can map them however you want by using the tangent mapper, and that is actually a really cool feature, okay? You also have the precision panels. Let me just open for 1 second the configuration tool, because I really want to be accurate here. See that at the end here, you have tangent and precision. Okay, you'll be able to use any tangent or any precision that you want. You can have the CP200. So any of you that might have some of those really old CP200s that were really awesome ages ago, you can still use them in Mistika. And I actually know a lot of operators that still use them. I believe Juan Cabrera is still a fan of those CP200 tangent panels. You also can use the tangent USB surfaces with Element, Arc, Ripple, or any other USB model. Okay, and then obviously when you configure the panels that you're using, you would have to add the information that you need to. Remember that you could also map them by using the tangent mapper. When you go to the tangent mapper, I think you can select Mistika Boutique there or Mistika and map them as you consider. Okay. Any other questions over there? We've seen quite a few things already. Don't know if anyone has any other question.
I think so far not. Maybe Marcel, you were asking something about click and hold left. I don't know if you got the answer.
Yes, I guess click and hold left was when I'm coming to this shot, but I wanna preview the grade in this shot. I just click and hold left. And if I want to keep this, drag up quickly, okay? And that will be already applied over the shot, okay? Great, okay. So this panel over here is about history. We are not gonna see it just now because this is a bit more advanced, but we'll definitely going to have a look at it, okay? And then tags. Here we have the tag options here. So I could say, for example, that this is my main shot. Okay, and now I have this activated. Okay, I'm gonna move it here for a second. And every time I have Shift and Control on, sorry, I'm on a Windows system for those on Mac OS. I bet it's going to be Command and Shift, I think. I'm creating my gangs, and in this case, it's my main shot here. So actually here, now I can create the gangs slowly. If I want to, just adding things to my gangs. And then here I have the option of pressing the solo option, and then I could just navigate to them. And then maybe just come to this shot and navigate on the storyboard and copy in the grades by double clicking. Okay, and that would be a way of doing it. If I turn the solo off, I could see the whole thing again. I can maybe then add another gang here, which would be, these would be the groups and resolve. And over here say, okay, so this is my close up. Close up, yeah, it's no. And over here, just come to this shot, Control Shift, click, and there we go. Now I'm adding my close-up shots to this group, okay? And as well, obviously, if I have here my tabletop shot here, just gonna put table here for a second. And I have it there selected, and I just add it there, I'll have them added. And you can see that the one I have selected is shown in blue, and the other ones are grayed out. But as soon as I click on one of them, you can see that the close-up now is activated, and then obviously the main ones again. And if you press here, you would see quickly just the solo of the one. Obviously, I had that shot selected, so that's why it was showing up there as well. But as soon as I have the solo selected, I'll add it over here. Okay. So that is another panel. And then we have here the display filters. Display filters is something really powerful that we're going to look into. It's going to be the final day because it's a bit very advanced, but once you learn them, I think you're going to really find useful things to do with them. I'll bring one as an example for the last class. But then I'll help you to create your own display filters. Okay, I'm going to remove the gangs. And then we have here, obviously, the scopes, and we can show up to 4 scopes. When we move the scopes, I'm actually going to turn off the snapshot mode here. We have up to 4 scopes, and you can move them around. And when you have 2 monitors, you can put some of these in the other monitors as well. In the scopes, I'm going to leave these 2 in vector scope and in waveform RGB overlap, but you can see here that you have the option of having different ones. One thing that I haven't said still in these classes is that the middle button helps to toggle through different options on any drop-down menu that you might have, okay? And we're going to see this. This is going to be actually quite useful in the color grading, and you'll see why later on. You can toggle through anything that has a drop-down menu, being a panel like this, or being any parameters that you might be working on in Mistika. By the way, I see that I've left the solo on my groups here. So over here, we could put RGB parade, or maybe just use a histogram, Luma histogram, and over here just maybe a waveform, YUV waveform. I generally tend to work only with the RGB overlap and the vector scope. I don't use the other 2. That's just a personal preference. And sometimes I turn off these 2, and sometimes I actually choose, when I want to really analyze the picture, I could choose here different size and different qualities of the picture. So over here, you have different options of configuring this. And for example, over here right now, I'm only seeing the positive values, so I can't see anything under 0. But if I press here negative and positive over here, now I can see the negative values. What is the cool thing of this is that I'm going to remove the preset menu here and add a layer, is that maybe with the bands here, I really want to recover that black information there, okay? And I can really see what elements of my picture are actually being crushed, okay? And that is a way of seeing it. Then we have this contrast panel at bottom, where we could adjust the contrast of our trace. We also have the zoom factor as well that you could obviously change with the wheel of the mouse. Okay. This is when you're working in stereo, you have the option when obviously you're color matching between 2 eyes, you have the option of viewing the trace of one eye or the other eye. Then the type of quality of the scope. If you want to use just a quarter of the samples or all the samples. And then the different type of scope information that is provided. If you want to go from 0 to a scale, on a scale of 10 bits, you're going to go to a scale of 8 bits. If you want to go to a grid that goes from 0% to 100, or a floating point from 0 to 1, or as nits, which in HDR could be quite useful. Although sometimes here, depending on here, maybe sometimes there's a lot of information here. But I generally have it 0 to 100. I do like it in best mode, and I do bring down the contrast. By clicking and dragging, you can also adjust the contrast, not only here, but here as well. And something cool here with the vector scope is obviously that the size, obviously, you could use it again to your advantage. You can zoom in and maybe pay attention to something in particular if you wanted to, and also if you really want to kind of just see like very critical information there, adjust the strength of the trace. But if you want to zoom into a particular point, you could do it. Okay. I'm going to leave this in small, low res, both right now, and just drop them here. But something really cool that we can do combining the visual editor and the vector scopes is if I press Control in my keyboard and the right button, for example, here we could see that our wall at the back, well, actually, it's slightly redder than we wanted to, but I could see exact values in floating point, 8 bits, 10 bits, 12 bits, and 16 bits if you wanted to. But you could also see a representation of this. Let's go large again. In the waveform. And cool thing of this is maybe let's just go to my primary here for a second. Okay, and I really want to be like really thorough. And then go, okay, there we go. I'm gonna match them. Much easier with the trackballs, but there I can match them actually. Or even so here, what I could do is use my printer lights and go again, whoop, that was a bit too much. So let's go like a quarter of a step, just press, and there we go. Match it and easily start matching different parts where I could match the crosshairs of RGB in all those values. Another cool thing here, obviously, is that obviously you can see this in all the different scopes. So if I go to a waveform or UV element, you can actually see the color differences and analyzing this as well.
Hey Paco, we have 2 questions.
Awesome, great.
If you want to check. So Tomasz is asking if the vector scope can be separated into low, medium, and high frequencies.
No, but yes. It's yeah, I know this is a tricky question. Okay, you know what? Let's quickly. I'm gonna quickly tell you why we can do it. So, for example, well, low. So what we could do is we could create a display filter. Let me prepare that properly for the last class, and I'll show you why so. Basically, what we could do is use the qualifier and create a display filter. And in the display filter, actually say to Mistika, if I have something, oh, I do have display filters here, obviously, I forgot. Okay, so what are display filters cool for? For example, here, the scope, if I were to do a 500 nits, I could create a display filter that actually tells me where the 500 nit value falls, okay? Or if I wanted to add another display filter, there's 203 nits, and I say show it on the scope. So I could do exactly the same thing, but saying just show me the shadows, show me the midtones, or show me the highlights, and create one for myself and actually turn it on and off. In this case, I've activated toggle number 2, both of them, but here you can see this is obviously much easier to see. Completely forgot that I had display filters here in this computer. So you can see here that I created a reference level for the 203 nits, and actually I could turn it on and off if I wanted to. This is obviously useful for HDR, but basically the display filter is preset effect, where you could choose where you're going to apply it. And you can choose if it's going to be on the GUI, if it's going to be on the scopes, or if it's going to be in the live output. For example, if you were going to be doing dailies in Mistika and you have a very specific 3D LUT, actually this LUT isn't activated here right now. Yeah, well, that's an ODT. If you were to work with a very specific LUT, you could actually output it, choose to output just that LUT on your video output, and start working without having to add effects inside Mistika. So the display filters, it's actually something really powerful. I will dedicate some more time to explain what they're useful for.
Awesome. So John is saying that his scopes won't go smaller than M-Low. Is there a setting somewhere to activate S-Low or mid? He's on a Mac.
Can you, when he clicks, do you see all the options?
John, you can obviously unmute yourself to answer that.
No, I only get medium, low, and up on it, so I don't get any small options.
Okay, so I think that I'm not used to Mistika on a Mac computer, so I'm not completely sure. Let me write that down and get back to you next week and see if there is any real issue, or maybe that Mac OS doesn't have that option.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Juan would like to know, after zooming in a scope, how can he move inside?
That's a great question. Something many of us Mistika ops have been requesting a lot. And I think they're adding that in the next version. I hope so. I'll ask Adrian to confirm this. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. He did say that. But,
okay. That's great.
The scope windows to another screen. Yeah, right button, or the crosshairs here, these crosshairs with arrows, and you can move them to another screen. I do not have another screen available myself, but you can move them to another screen. Yes. Unless you mean by configuring another output screen, that's not something you can do, but you can move any panel actually in Mistika to another screen if you wanted to. Okay, all right. So let's carry on. They should float. The zooms, the Mistika scopes should float. you should be able to put them in another monitor if you wanted to. You should do, yeah. Okay, so we've seen the comparison mode, and then quickly we'll have a look here at the keyframe graph. Quick way of having a look at this is actually I'm going to add, for example, here. Oh, by the way, something I forgot before we move on. If I want to remove all this data of this color picker, just press Control and right button on an empty part where there's no image information, and it will be gone. If you want to analyze something specific, like for example these highlights over here, just right click and click there, and you be seeing them. Okay, so that's one thing you can do. Remember, right click, right button, and while Control is pressed on an empty part of the visual editor, and it will remove that information from there. So right now, what I'm going to do is draw a quick shape over here. And to make it really obvious, we're going to do it on the grade, middle button to add some softness if we wanted to. And I'm going to open here the shape menu. And in here in the shape menu, we see some parameters and we see some tracking. I'm going to go here both ways, and I hit both ways, and you can see it's analyzing the inside of the shape. And if I go to the keyframe graph here, we can see now that shape. And if I select a clip, I can zoom fit to that and actually see the curve drawn. If I have another one, depending on what I wanted to, I could maybe just I could zoom in X and zoom in Y, depending on what I want to do, okay, in case I really want to move something. Then there's other options, like for example here, if I want to select something, I do have the option of changing the points here, and I can make them constant, which would make it actually really tricky. If I double click on one of the points, it will select the whole curve. Let me zoom reset here and maybe zoom fit that and make it constant. Well, it will make a interesting thing to the shape there. So, well, no, because it's every single frame, so won't change that much. But you can actually change the tangents of the curves over here. You could also you could see as well that every time I press the icons change. When it's constant, it's red, and when you have a smooth keyframe, it goes green over there in the timeline here. One thing I have not said is that you could actually zoom in this timeline. Okay, it's more useful when obviously you don't have everything keyframed, of course. I'm going to leave it in smooth. There's other things that you can do. Obviously, you can move elements here, or especially here, change the scale in the horizontal axis and the vertical axis. You can, here we have to do a selection for this, and you could scale there to the right, scale to the left, scale up, or scale down. Or if you want to bring this to 0 or closer to 0, you could, it's depending on the axis you go, to kind of drop them there to the same level, to the lowest one. You just have to select the points that you want. Other thing that you can do is filter the whole curve. You select it and you can filter it, and it smooths. And the more you click, it smooths it even more and more. Okay. And that is it. Then other options that you have is obviously flip the whole curve, reverse it, sorry, flip it, and that's it. Then, for example, here we have, we do have curves. Let me select this. Over here, anything that has a keyframe will be shown inside the keyframe graph. Okay, just going to copy one of these for a second, copy curve, and reset everything and paste it. Okay, now that I've pasted it, you can see I only have one curve. Okay, but if I tracked this again, go both ways, and go back to the keyframe graph, I can see there are many more graphs. If I want to hide one of these, for example, here I could double click. That one might be too obvious, but maybe these that are related with position, and maybe these are something that I really want to manipulate and I don't want to see the other ones. If you select one and press H, you will hide them. Okay, and then you could only work with the one that you're looking at. Okay, the one that you want. This one, I actually want to hide it as well. So now we only see in position Y, and you can see it's slightly grayed out once you do that. If you select it and press Shift H, you will bring them back up again. Okay, so that is a little bit the keyframe graph. Okay. And let's have a better look to the shape panel. And in the shape panel, we have different options here for the shape. For example, if I added another shape here, let's do a box here. Obviously, the combination here that I have, if I go, whoops, sorry, wrong button here. If I press the highlight here, I can see that the combination that I chose for that rectangle shape was add. But what if I actually wanted to add it? Nope, I had to select it first. Yeah, that would help. Change how that is combined. So in this case, intersect, and that's the only thing I want. And now in my video output, if we see it here in the record monitor, there we go. You can see that right now those two shapes are intersecting and the color grade is only applied inside those two. Okay. So still going into the shape mode, this is how we could do it. If I want to cut the selected shape, I just select the shot and select the shape, cut it out, get out of the menu and maybe add another layer and paste it here. You can see that now I've pasted that on another layer. And here, go back to the color grade and just kind of make it like, oh yeah, obviously it brought in the combination mode. Let me just change this to add. And there we go. You can see I've moved it to another layer. If you needed to, you could do it just like that. Remember, go to the shape panel and change it. Then, if we want to smooth anything, any key point, you could select the key, and you have the option of, just as exactly the same as in the keyframe panel, choose different points for those points of the shape. So if you want them connected, if you want them independent tangents or anything, or if you want them smooth. Then you could also choose to reset anything if you needed to. So for example, here I could reset them, and it did, although they did go quite. Let's go there to independent towns and then reset all, and you can see it goes back to square. Then softness points. Remember, we could do this with the middle button of the mouse. Okay, so we could smooth them. If I press Shift, I'm smoothing the outside. If I press Control, I'm smoothing the inside. Interesting thing of shapes and other elements inside Mistika. Whoa, I pressed Escape for a second. Anyway, let's do it with this one over here. Every time you press Alt, you can, when you press Alt, you're always rotating. So for example, here I select this, I press Alt, right? I press Alt and I have the option of rotating, okay? So that is something you always have the option. And then bounding box, obviously, like any other bounding box, you can make it larger. You can obviously select only the points that you want to move, and just like that. Hope that makes sense. And that is mostly it. You can see that the shape tracker here has its own tracking panel. But what if we wanted to do one-point track? Well, sorry, go here to this tracking panel over here. I wouldn't take the shape mode. I will turn it off, and you can see all the points here that actually you could get rid of them. But maybe over here I could add a tracker, single tracker, and position it. Let's track that here. Okay. You can click to go both ways. All right. And then with this tracking information that you have here, go to the shapes, go to tracking. Okay, and press move if you wanted to. And that tracking information is applied, the tracking information of the single point, not of the cloud of the shape mode over here. Okay, so that is another way. Anyway, we will look into the tracking mode in next week's online editing session. Okay, so we've gone through everything in the visual editor, and now we're going to go to the color grade node. Do any of you have any questions before we jump into that? Actually, I'm going to reset all the grades and apply new grades. Okay, just to start from scratch and make it a lot easier. Is there any way to hide shapes? Good question. Like hiding, like if you want to deactivate them, so mute them. So if you want to mute them, I'm thinking. I don't think there is a way of doing that right now. No, I don't think so. But that's actually a good feature that maybe they need to add. Whoops. Okay, so let's have a look at the edit. And well, let's start with the main shot here. And let's learn a little bit what the color node is. We already saw a little bit, a brief description of the color node last week. Whoa, it's an hour and 20 already. Well, let's go. Let's have some fun with this. We saw that every vector has the primary bands, fixed vectors, curves, and also filters. We're going to see that when you do a grade, for example, here, I'm just going to drop the lift a little bit here and the gain. I also have a waveform representation here to my right, and that I can change if I wanted to the pivot points. But then I also have the bands, and obviously the bands can also add a little bit of luminance changes here as well, and actually maybe make it warmer here in the midtones. And then we have the fixed factors. But what if the fixed factors, what if we wanted to take this red to something, or let's go with yellows here, green, make this slightly greener. Okay, it's more obvious over here. Okay, it's gone like really green, right? Some people might think that, okay, so now I have curves that come right after the fixed factors. And as soon as I add my points here in my hue versus hue curves, which I can make larger here, so I can manipulate this slightly better. And I go and say, okay, I'm going to saturate now the new green colors here. Oh, and we suddenly realize that that's not the case. Well, the reason this is happening is because primary, bands, fixed, and curves are working in parallel, okay? All of these sublayers inside every vector are working in parallel. Actually, the only thing that isn't, and it's in the primary only, is the saturation. The saturation will always happen after the lift, gamma, and gain correction. Okay, that is just the rule, the order of operations inside the primary, and how, for example, it's defined for CDL correction. Okay, so I'm going to reset everything. Okay, remember, just by selecting a parameter inside Mistika and pressing delete, you would reset everything. So when we are in primary bands of fixed factors, and let's do something a bit more obvious. Okay, and maybe here with the fixed factors, I really go like something like really wild. Let's just do that and saturate that. Okay, it's only when I come to the next vector that actually that information now is magenta. Okay, it isn't red anymore. It wouldn't happen inside vector number 1. It only would happen when I apply a second vector. What does this mean? Is that every vector that we add is going to behave just like a serial node in Resolve, for example. Okay, it's going to be fed by any corrections that we've done in the previous vector. Okay, let's reset this. So how can we, if we wanted to, how could we change that? Well, there is a way of doing it in Mistika. But first of all, let's see how we know that we are feeding in a new input to every vector. Sorry, I meant to do this in vector number 1. For example, here I made a mistake. I did it in vector 2 instead of vector number 1. Well, I can easily press here move before. So now that becomes my base layer, so to speak. Okay, I can add a tiny bit of saturation and a little bit of gamma. I don't want it to be as dark there. Okay, now I go to vector number 2, and please check, have a look here, over here, at how vector number 2, the scope inside vector number 2 changes as soon as I press vector number 2. Okay, right? The vectors on top are not changing because what we are showing in vector number 2 is the information that is being fed from vector number 1. Okay, and how that is changing the next tool, how it's changing the behavior of the next tool. And the same thing happens with bands. So if I go to bands in vector number 1, anything that I've done here is not going to change bands inside vector 1. But if I jump to vector number 2, it does change it. So we could see that in vector number 1, it's not changing anything, but the luminance range that we're going to be working on in vector number 2 does change. Okay, so this way we could see that any thing that we do in one vector will impact on the next one. Okay, and same thing will happen obviously for fixed vectors and curves. Okay, they will be fed by what you've done in vector number 1. So let's imagine here, well, let's not imagine, let's do it. I've done this grade, and we could see here if I go to show negative and positive values that I'm going way over the top here and actually losing some of information there, crunching a lot my shadows there. What if I wanted to recover that? Well, maybe there we could use actually bands to recover that there, and you can see there I could recover it. Actually, we could change there the pivot points on how that behaves and make them a bit more aggressive, or actually reduce the impact of what I'm doing there just by changing how I'm reading that incoming information. There's other tool inside the primary grade that we could use as well. So if I add here another vector, for example, we could use the soft clip color wheel here. And with a soft clip color wheel, I'm going to make this larger so we could see it. Medium mid-res. I can say, okay, so over here, let's see what, those are the highlights that right now I'm clipping. And this gray wall that's over there at the back is actually almost around 85% of my signal, almost 86, okay. 85, 86, we can see a floating point at 83, okay. So I can actually come here to my soft clip and say, actually, let's put the soft clip level at 80. And there we go. I put it at 80. And maybe, now let's be a little bit more precise. Let's just put it at 84. And now I'll bring in, and please have a look, sorry, here. And I'll bring in all that highlight information inside my soft clip, okay? Okay, so I can soft clip that information inside my primary grade there. And similarly, we could do something else for the black point as well in primaries. We could actually add another vector. And in this case here, we have pivot points, different type of pivot points, I would go for the shadow pivot points. And in the shadow pivot points over here, I could choose to actually bring that black information within ranges in another vector, okay? And actually play with how it gets hold of the self-clip there, play how aggressive that is if I needed to, okay? And still maybe go to vector number 1, and well, now I have a bit more control of that and actually add a little bit more of contrast if I consider it necessary. Okay, so that is a cool thing of working creatively with the pivot points in primary. But now we have defined our grade now goes from 0 to 100 in vector number 4 here. And in vector number 5, I actually want to work with the bands, and I want to do a little bit more of an S-curve into my picture. Actually, here it could be slightly easier because I already have my pivot points already applied as I wanted to. So there, I could add a little bit more of contrast, and also there shadows there on the highlights. One thing we need to know is that bands work differently to primaries, okay? To primary. And just to quickly explain it, I'm going to go to another shot. When I'm in primary and I adjust the contrast, let's actually have a look here to a small low res. And let's make this larger for now. And I adjust contrast. I'm saturating the image, okay? I'm going to mute this and add vector number 2 and go into bands. Or actually, I could even, let's do something, go to my presets here and create this one automatically. Okay, so it's here, fine. And then I hide vector number 2, vector number 1, sorry. And then I adjust the contrast here, all contrast over here. But that's not saturating, as you can see here. I'm not saturating the image when I do this in bands. It's saturating, the mathematical operation is different. In one, obviously we are multiplying and multiplying with the inverse within lift and gain. And in bands, we are adding, okay? The feel that this does is that actually what we're doing is working separately luminance and chrominance, but actually no, it's just the mathematical operation that actually change the result of what we might expect. So actually we've adjusted the contrast here, and if I compare this to the shot that I made a preset of, okay. So show snapshot, and it's here. Show split, and wipe position. Where is it? Draw a line. We could see there that obviously it's completely different. The contrast operator in bands, completely different to a contrast operation in primaries, okay? So this is a way of kind of explaining the different creative possibilities of the mathematical operations of the tools inside here in Mistika. Because one thing that we could do, going back to the first shot that we were working on here, and sorry, forgot to get rid of split screen here, is if I define a region that I really want to work on here, I'm going to reset here. And maybe over here, just adjust the contrast of some of my highlights, or what would be considered like white highlights there. I could be quite aggressive just in that point there. Okay. And same thing with the shadows. So I have that luminance discrimination of the signal, not only in the 5 trackballs, but also in hue, saturation, and contrast, okay, for my shadows, midtones, and highlights. And we haven't yet worked, for example, here with the trackball, but with a trackball, we could actually define different midtone operations or colors there, and pushing it maybe there to yellow orangey to kind of really emphasize the colors there in the midtones, and making it really aggressive in the highlights over there. So kind of the possibilities, the creative possibilities that how the bands operation works compared to the primaries, it's actually really, really powerful. You could use also bands as a log grade, and I would definitely recommend it in color managed workflows where you could actually set the pivot points and do add operations on particular parts of the image that you could adjust here with pivot points. I really would recommend you guys using it like that. But okay, now let's see. I'm going to get rid of what we've done here. I'm happy with actually. Yeah, let's keep it over here, just as we have it here. I'm going to get rid of the white mode here, make this smaller. Yep. Does anyone have a question?
We have one question in the chat already since before. So Marcel is asking, do you normally use, for example, 1 vector per color corrected, or how do you manage that?
I actually, I tend to use one of the sublayers per vector. I do tend to use that, but I do separate it sometimes. Like I do my primary correction, I do my bands, and sometimes I combine bands and fixed vectors, because with the fixed vectors, I really start working with the creatively with the colors, and with bands I can maybe start to focus on what elements I really want to focus on, and on the shadows or on the highlights, generally trying to add a little bit of that contrast with just the luminance operator over there. Okay, so going 1 second here to curves now, just to show you a little bit how to work with the curves. Obviously, we can make this large window so we could see the operation. Obviously, now I have the advantage of I'm seeing my video output we would be able to, and I think last week we saw that how I could actually choose a point in my image to actually change anything on the hue if I wanted to. Okay, that is definitely just like in other tools in other systems, but obviously over here just work with the RGB channels, or work with them independently just by removing the lock. And over here we would choose then which one we want to work with, if blue, green, or red. So if I wanted to maybe reduce a little bit of blue in the highlights and make a little bit of a dual tone there just by adding a little bit of blue in the shadows, but actually I'm going to go to the red channel, and by pressing Alt click you would be adding a point. And over here one cool thing is that we could actually constrain the movement, and over here constrain the movement in X. So now I just have to move this in Y, and actually want to remove a little bit of that magenta feel just by dropping a little bit red. I'm going to choose blue here, and also just dropping down there the blue there because I didn't like it to be so magenta. As well with green, adding just a tiny bit there of green in the midtones if I wanted to. You have the option here of obviously constraining the movement of the points inside, and it makes it actually really cool to kind of do quick operations and precise operations if you want to do. And always remember, you can obviously make this large screen to actually make more precise movements. Okay. Okay. Then one thing that we haven't seen yet is obviously we have the options of changing the order of the vectors. We could actually move this one before or move it after. Also, we have the option of duplicating it, okay? If we wanted to be more aggressive, and this would be like way too aggressive right now. But one thing that we haven't seen is actually, I have the blend option here. And what does the blend option do? I could bring it down, and the corrections I've done in that vector go to 0. Nothing is happening. But what if I go up? I'm going to reset this by double clicking. What if I go up? Oh, I'm doubling the strength of the grade that I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm really doubling the strength of the grade. So not only this would be helpful that maybe when we've gone too far, and for example, this kind of Instagram look that we've just done is maybe way too aggressive. This actually could help you to work with the client and say, well, halve the correction you've done here. Okay, and you just halve it. But how do we halve all the correction that we've done? We want to go from here to half of this correction. Well, there's several ways of doing it. First, I'm going to add a vector, and I have the recover mode here. And actually in the recover mode inside, what I can choose is actually I can recover any moment of, well, obviously it goes it circles through every single moment, but I can recover any instance of the grade. If I could go to the base, which would be my vector number 1, or I could go to vector number 3, just to the corrections I did there. Do you remember that in vector number 3, we brought the highlights in, but we didn't bring the shadows? We did do it in vector number 4. We did do that in vector number 4. So I could actually recover anything. I could also recover the source. And there we go. That's the source as it came into the color grade node. Then we could go to the qualifier. And in the qualifier here, we have the tolerance. And I have this option. And I can, bring the tolerance down here and actually halve a little bit of the action of what I'm recovering, meaning that actually what we recover is actually related to the selection that we have. So in this case, maybe I just want to recover how the shadows looked like. Okay, and that's the key of the shadows, and that is actually what I'm recovering. Okay, or maybe I just want to recover the highlights. I've overcooked it too much in the highlights there, and that is it. Or, and this is something that some people might find handy, and I think Jeff Sosa, remind me if you asked me this question in the Slack channel. We could actually use the shape, have the whole grade here, okay, select the whole picture on the shape, and in options, in our shape panel, bring down the opacity of this to 50%. Okay, and now we just halved, sorry, wrong button again. The action, sorry, I'm wrong, yeah, vector, halved the key output of our qualifier here, and in this case, combining it obviously with a shape, okay? So that is one trick that you could do here to do this. Okay. Now, quickly, what can we use? Other cool tools that we could use recover for. Let's take it. Let's leave it here. Okay. I really like it how I have it here. But going to add vector number 5, and in vector number 5, I'm going to blur this, and let's be quite aggressive with this, okay? And let's blur it a lot. And with vector, and vector number 6, if I add another one, I say, well, let's recover how this looked before that blur in vector number 5. No, sorry, vector number 4. Okay, so we just recovered, but right now I have what I've done here. There's another thing that I could do here. Sorry, I'm going to mute for 1 second vector number 6, something I forgot. I'm going to desaturate this completely. Okay. And now in vector, I'm going to add vector number 7, where I'm going to recover vector number 5. And now I'm going to apply a blending mode. And I can obviously soft light this, okay? And we can see the different result by soft lighting that adds contrast and a little bit of a glow over here, okay? I could actually combine this, maybe add a screen and combine this with the keyer, okay? So maybe I just want to add a little bit of a glow to some of the elements in my highlight elements there, okay? So we could see it there. I can actually define a blur on my key here, so it actually does a little bit more of a glow. You can see it here. And the face especially. You can start to do different options to kind of start adding different type of effects, and you could do that with the recover mode, or using in combination the filters as well, and the keyer. Okay, so that is another tool of where we can work with different elements. Okay, so what time is it? Whoa, 10 minutes to go. Guys, are you enjoying the class? Anything you want to look at before I go to the next step? Please ask, well, say something now. We have 10 minutes to go. Maybe we could go just slightly more, but just want to be sure.
Everything seems good.
Great. Okay, cool.
We have thumbs up from Xavier. So
awesome, cool. I really hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I do. So quickly, I'm actually going to copy the grade from that shot. Remember, double clicking there, and going to remove that glow effect that I've just done. Play a lot with effects like that. You could really get used to recovering maybe only the chroma channel or whatever. I really want to focus on different ways of working with the saturation here now in Mistika. For example, we're going to add a vector here. And in this vector, you can see here that we have the option of R, G, and B, which I've just deactivated. Well, the cool thing here is that actually you could choose to work on a single channel if you wanted to. Okay. So you could actually choose Mistika to work only in one of these channels. But you also have the option of saying to Mistika, okay, I only want to work in the luminance. And in this particular shot, I'm only going to work in the luminance. Okay, in this particular vector, any contrast that you do, it's only going to be done in the luminance channel. Okay, but we could also do this only in the chroma channel. But what if I told you that we could simulate a boost operation inside Mistika? If I add a vector, I've just pressed insert, and before my vector number 1, I've just added a new one here. I go to chroma, and over here, play a little bit. Let's actually make this larger so you guys can see it. Play with lift operator here. Bring it down. Look at the image. Okay, this might bring some artifacting. But actually, what I'm doing here is I'm correcting the image before I've done any base grade on my images, okay? Very similar to what the boost operator can do, okay? And just because I've just activated, I just want to work in the chroma channel, okay? I don't want to work nor in the luminance nor in RGB, just in the chroma channel, okay? What happens if we do it with gamma? And actually, you know, another tool that we're going to see this on is actually on the YUV waveform here. Let me make this larger so it's easy to see. I'm going to take off the storyboard for a second so we can focus there on our chef. Okay. For example, when I bring the gamma up, I'm desaturating the image there, especially on the shadows. Okay. What if I bring it down? Oh, suddenly I'm saturating it, but I'm also getting that kind of bleach bypass kind of feel as well. But I'm really saturating some colors there. Okay. And same thing would happen if we do this with gain, okay? But it obviously would be very similar to what we did with lift. And what happens with maybe the soft clip here? So here with the soft clip, actually, if there are elements that we believe here in our highlights are way too saturated, and actually we don't want them to be as saturated, we could bring it down. And for example, remove the highlight information there in the background that might have been distracting. Especially interesting this when we use this operator in HDR, okay? Because things that might be very saturated in the highlights might actually be distracting when we're doing an HDR grade, okay? So that is something definitely that I would really recommend to have a look at, okay? And once we have this vector working in chroma, our fixed vectors also work differently, okay? And how saturation is how you're working with saturation does work differently as well. So explore the possibilities. For example, here luminance is not going to do anything because obviously we are not working on the luminance of the colors, but explore how these tools work differently when we use these other this vector in a different way. So you can see there right now, if I turn it on and off, you have a much richer color contrast in our image when we work with that. One thing that every time I do this, I always forget to explain, and it's always worth explaining, is remember that in every single vector, you have an inside and an outside. And that inside and outside, the easy way of explaining this is obviously with a quick vignette, okay? Okay, and we can grade the inside and obviously grade the outside, but obviously I'm going to duplicate this for a second. It also works on any of the selections that we've done, okay? And for example, here, obviously we have a quick quick selections. Like for example, if I want to work with just with red selection here. By the way, remember, every time you see a small triangle in any icon in Mistika, it means you can display a drop-down menu, okay? And you can define how you want to see the key in this case, okay? I generally always display key. Go to skin tones, for example, and from any selection that you do here, you would also have the output mode. And in the output mode, you can choose if it's the mask, if it's the inverse of any HSL selection that you've done, or if it is with a combination of obviously shape. Okay, so maybe there's an area you want to protect, and you could choose how the output that you're going to work on. Okay, and there's something else. I did show this in the colorist mixer. Is remember that well, one thing here. I'm going to reset this for a second. Okay, this vector number 8. just see, for example, here that when you swap inside and outside grade, obviously the inverse of the alpha channel of the inside grade is white. So that is something interesting to know. So when we are here in the qualifier, one thing that we can do is combine the selections that we do. For example, here I'm selecting a skin tone here in my HSL, but maybe here I could also use the RGB keyer to make it a slightly better selection. If I want to remove any yellow information, I reduce the green that I want to work with. Okay, blue, I don't think it's going to affect as much. Nah, no, not much there. We do have the option here. You do also have eyedroppers to select things, okay? So that is something that you could do. And you could also shape how the softness is applied, okay? And always get this wrong. And how strong this is, it will affect the type of grade that we do. So for example, if I really want to take the skin tones maybe to a slightly more magenta feel there and bring it up there, okay, the key softness can do this, okay? But the other thing that we can do is resetting this whole thing is mathematical operations inside the key. So over here, I can go to merge key, and merge key here with doesn't need to be the source now because obviously I have more. Let's say vector number 5, okay, but only do this with a green channel, okay. And actually, I'm going to turn this off for a second and view this here, select the skin tones, and now do the operation. And there we go. We have almost perfect skin tone selection there, okay, of our character. What we're doing there is we're multiplying the green information to the selection that we have. And that what is going to make is actually darken anything that is yellow on the key and just keep the red channel information for that, okay? So then we just need to blur this a little bit and then just do the correction that we want, okay? And remember, we can combine this with filtering, with recovering, with anything that we would want to work with, okay? So for example here, actually we could actually use this to smooth the skin a little bit there with a median operator, and there, smooth it there, just there for a tiny second. Might have gone a bit too far, but that is it. Now, quickly, how do we apply LUTs in Mistika? If you have a creative LUT you want to work with here, well, we're going to a new clean shot. And see over here, we have a LUT 3D option here. We could go here and press load and go. And in this case, I'm going to choose Sony S Gamut LUT. I actually believe this was shot in Sony alphas. So actually, this might be too aggressive, but this is the cool thing of the color grade. This is too aggressive. Well, I could go to the blend and just bring it down to where I like it. Okay, and then that I could use that 3D LUT a lot better. Or I don't know, maybe I really loved it, well, which I don't, but multiply the effect of that 3D LUT. I really recommend using this, for example, with some LUTs in ACES workflows. You could really do really creative things with these ACES LUTs. But as well, and this goes to organizational things, we can also use a LUT 3D node. Apply the LUT 3D node and put it on top here. I think this might be softer. Yeah, that one is softer. So, and actually what I'm going to do is get hold of it, select all of them. Oh, by the way, this is a trick. Control X to cut it, select a track or nodes where I want to apply it, Control V to paste it. And it pastes them on top of all the clips. So now all my clips have that LUT. And now my working space is still the source of the shot. But now if I double click on top and one click on the color grade, as we saw at the beginning of today's lesson, I could grade the pictures under the LUT 3D and still navigate, okay, and actually bring the grade. And this really now depends on how you want to organize your timeline, okay, and how you want to do it, okay. And for example, here you could use any .cube LUTs that you might have. I think ITX as well. Actually, Mistika breeds quite a lot of different LUT types, but as almost .cubes are standard already in the market, have a play and try to work with them. Okay. Whoa, I've gone over the hour, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. See, there's loads of messages in the chat. There's a question, can you switch vector 1 to vector 3? No, but you could maybe duplicate, copy and paste. I can see that Marcel Notter made that question. You can swap positions though. Sony Alpha, and we don't see any big artifacts. Yeah, it is Sony Alpha. Yes, it is Sony Alpha. I honestly play with the color corrector in Mistika. It's really great. There are artifacts, honestly. Maybe because of the compression, you're not seeing them, but once you play with it, you are going to see some artifacts, color subsampling, and other things that we are going to learn how to remove later. The LUTs, actually, to be fair, I actually think those I've got them from Sony, but also you can find them in Resolve as well. So those are going to be there. Vectors can be disabled. Really good question. Not only you can disable vectors, but I'm trying to find. Okay, so can we disable vectors? For example, here I just added the LUT 3D to the shot that I graded earlier. Can you disable vectors? Yes, you do have this eye where you can disable it, but for example, you can also disable individually inside every sublayer, inside or outside, okay? So, for example, something that happens a lot, your client asks you, oh, you know what? I really want to change that a little bit to remove a little bit the yellows in the image. Oh yeah, of course, but do it here. Okay, yeah. And you go and say, okay, I'm going to take the yellows slightly a bit more to red here. But you've done other things in the primary, and it's not going to be a fair assessment to deactivate the whole thing. You could go and say, deactivate just the fixed factor, and it would only turn off the fixed factor. Okay, so that makes it really actually interesting and cool to work with. Okay, let's see, any more questions? Do you recommend changing chrominance before color grade, or does it depend on the scene and clip? It obviously depends on the scene and clip. And you don't need to do it before the grade. You could do it as another vector. I just would. Funny, you can't export graded stills right now. That is something Mistika is working on. They're going to have it in a new version. Sorry, about changing the chrominance again. You can do it halfway in the stack, the color grading stack in Mistika, but I just wanted to show you there how you could simulate the color boost operator in Resolve if you ever missed it or anything. The color boost operator happens before any primary grade, so that is what I would recommend. Oh, I didn't know that. You can export graded stills. There's a save still option in the, oh yeah, in the record monitor. Yeah. But yes, that is true. That is true. So over here, yeah, that is true. Sorry, guys. Thanks, Jeff, for helping me that. So over here, you have the option of save image, and you could save a still there. We actually saved one, and it's saved in the output folder of the Mistika folder structure, project folder structure. Okay, and yeah, that's one thing. You can't do a group export right now, like several shots in one go. There might be other tricks that we could do that I might. Well, I'll need to think about. Maybe that might work, but I have to investigate to see if we could do it. But no, right now there isn't a quick kind of easy way of doing it. No, but STO are really working on it. The next versions are going to have that, definitely. Okay, so I think that we could call it a day. It's been actually very, very, very informative, far more packed than I thought. I hope you enjoyed it. And any questions that you might have, we can answer them next week. Please join the Mistika 10 global Slack community, global community in Slack. I think you're going to enjoy it. There's a lot of people there that have loads of experience and can answer some of your questions. And honestly, enjoy the experience.